I'm going to start with the most important story because it needs a call to action to all of my fellow business owners. This one is incredibly important. As you know, coming for vote very soon is the big, beautiful bill. And of course, this is a financial bill. It is meant to manage some tax cuts, put us back to the 2017 tax cuts, which I'm kind of a fan of. I think that could be very helpful. But there's one little hidden gem in this bill that dentists in particular, and dentists who own their practices most particularly, should be concerned about. Let's dig a little deeper into the details. So it's a few years ago that they put into place the SALT Act, and that was a cap on how much you could run your state and local taxes through your practice. It capped at $10,000. Well, for small businesses, that was a big deal. So a workaround that many states put into place was the PTET. And what that means is the pass-through entity tax, I think. Hold on. Let me make sure I've said it correctly. Anyway, the PTET meant that you could, as an entity, pay your state and local taxes at the entity level instead of paying it as an individual taxpayer. Well, what did that mean? You were no longer subject to the cap. That was a big deal because that meant that you could then write off or use that as a business expense, your state and local taxes. There's a little interesting caveat in this big, beautiful bill, and it is to restrict the ability for small service industries to be able to use this pass-through workaround for the SALT. And SALT would come back. So we would then go back to SALT cap, which would be 10 grand for state and local taxes. Those of you in New York, California, in particular, and any of the New England states, better be paying very close attention because you are the ones most subject to the most damage from a SALT cap. If it caps at 10,000 and your state taxes and your local taxes exceed that, you can only write off up to 10,000. The rest is still profit on your practice and you will pay federal income tax on that income. That sucks. So please, please, please reach out to your House of Representative members, whoever you can get their contact, to let them know how you feel about this particular little nuance for service-related sole proprietorships and LLCs, partner-based, and this newly minted workaround to put the SALT cap back in because they don't like it. They don't like that the PTET restricted you or allowed you the ability to start working around the SALT cap. They want to reinstate that. That is a no-go for service-related small businesses. I cannot stress that enough. The ADA and the AGD both have resources. If you don't know who your House of Representatives member is, first off, hate to say it, shame on you. But be that as it may, this is your opportunity to learn, find out who they are, and go ahead and express your opinion about this particular bill. This is a call to action of great urgency because this will be going up for vote with the House of Representatives within the next day or two. I cannot stress it enough. Reach out to your House member. Okay, now that I've depressed you thoroughly with that information, here are a few other little tidbits for us to stew on for the evening. Iowa has just passed a bill that will allow DAs to work in practices without being registered. So in Iowa, all DAs must register with the state board in order to be able to practice in any practice in the state. Interestingly, a lot of the states around them didn't have that requirement. So Iowa saw the issue, has also, as many of us do, a serious workforce related issue going on, trying to get DAs and dental hygienists into their practice. So they've modified the rule to allow DAs to work with their dentists under a training program without registering with the state. A few nuances with the law. So if you're in Iowa, you should definitely look into that to make sure you're operating within that for radiography and coronal polishing. But expanded function does qualify for these non-registered dental assistants. This is an attempt, again, to help get more workforce movement and to get more people involved in the state of Iowa. This was an interesting study that came out of JAMA, the Journal of the American Dental Association. It talked about the alpha gal syndrome, and this is a hypersensitivity that develops from a specific tick bite. It's called the Lone Star tick. So maybe Chad can tell us a little bit more about this particular tick. But there are quite a few individuals in the US that do have this disease. The interesting thing about alpha gal syndrome is that they are highly sensitive to red meat and some medical and dental products, which can result in a variety of symptoms from skin reactions all the way to anaphylaxis. This is new on the radar for most dentists. Even the CDC hasn't really been tracking this very well. So we really don't know how many individuals in the US currently suffer from AGS. But it is incredibly impactful for how we treat those patients in our practice. And the interesting thing is, for a lot of them, it takes a very long time to receive that diagnosis. I have a couple of patients in my practice that have AGS, and it took a long time to get to that particular diagnosis. So you could have patients in your practice today that have hypersensitivities to some of the same things we just discussed, but haven't made the connection yet or had the appropriate diagnosis. We're going to need to learn a lot more about these sensitivities and about how these patients interact with a lot of the dental products on the market today to hopefully be able to continue to provide them safe and effective dental care while still using dental products and preventative techniques that we have come to trust. In particular, two things that have definitely been noted so far are fluoride gels and bone grafts. So we'll continue to stay on top of that to get you more information. My last story of the evening is really a PSA for all our fellow patients out there. Yet another story, another week of dentists practicing illegal dentistry in another state. This particular dynamic trio was practicing dentistry illegally and also participating in human trafficking. Now, we know they are innocent until proven guilty, but it is quite a heavy laundry list of accusations that have been given to them. Now, my PSA is to patients. You do know that you can go to the state dental board registry, it's all online, and you can look up your dentist to make sure they have a license in good standing in that state. And if there's any concern whatsoever that that might be an issue, I implore you, go to your state dental board website, type in the last name of the individual you intend to see, and search for their credentials to make sure that they are licensed in the state in which you would wish to proceed with the care. And with that, that's the news.